Hi BookTube. So it's now Monday, December 30th now it is. And I finished Children of Men by P.D. James yesterday, and let me tell you, it was interesting. I wish I DNF'd it, to be honest. I just kept reading it just to see if the plot went where I thought it would go, and it didn't. I think my main problem was how slow it was. Like, on the back it says, where does it say? Oh, replete with suspense and tension, keeps the pages turning at a steady clip, and it was definitely not. It was definitely a much slower read. There wasn't a lot of tension. There was one scene thrown in there that seemed totally off kilter. Where a bunch of people are just attacked. It's just, it makes no sense in the context. Like, it just seems kind of comes out of nowhere. And a lot of the ideas that she presents too don't make sense. Like, if you know about the Quietus, like, I don't see why that is a thing. It doesn't make sense in the context of the larger world. And then her insistence that women will go crazy if they can't have children is another strange thing that she just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And I finished Foxglove Summer, which I did enjoy, but it ended quite abruptly. There are still quite a few questions that I had that I didn't feel were answered. My intentions for this week are to start on some goals. I'm going to make a video. You probably, I don't know when this video is coming up, but eventually I'm going to make a 2020 goals video that will explain. I want to read at least one ebook a month. So I already picked my ebook using a similar thing. I had 54 ebooks and I just said pick a number between 1 and 54. And it was, oh, it's off. It'll take too long to turn on. The World of Yesterday by Stefan Zweig. I want to say, I'll put a picture of it here. I'm going to be reading Deadhouse Gates as well. I'm not even halfway through it right now. I'm on page 304 of 836 pages. And it's the second book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen series, which is very convoluted and complicated, but the overarching background story is that this empire is trying to take over the world. But there's lots of different things going on. And I don't know what the World of Yesterday is about. I remember BookTuber mentioned it, and I'm so sorry, I can't remember exactly who it was. I want to say Bookish Islander, though. Because I finished Foxglove Summer, which was my audiobook, I'm going to start a new audiobook. I'm going to try and listen to the Witcher audiobook. I tried it before, and I just had a problem with the narrator's voice. He was very good, but it just wasn't absorbing, and I don't know if that was my fault or if it was the narrator's fault. So I'm going to give it another go.
This is a serious matter, Your Majesty. The risk is great. That is why you must listen. The princess should always wear a sapphire around her neck, or better, an inclusion on a silver chain.
So it's New Year's Day, it's Wednesday. I worked this morning, so I didn't actually stay up until midnight last night. I went to bed at 10:30. But I, had a good night. I ate a huge bowl of pasta and watched the Big Fat Quiz of the Year and Doctor Who and Rick and Morty. So yeah, my plan this morning was to, this afternoon, I worked this morning, was to read, I said initially 10 pages of each of these, but before I realized it, I had read the whole foreword of this. This is The World of Yesterday by Stefan Zweig. And I did check, it was Bookish Islander, whose channel I saw this on. And this is a memoir of his generation, it seems. It's not just his personal memoir. He wants to capture that his whole generation. So he was born when I think it was the Habsburg Empire was still around. And this goes up until 1939. And he was Jewish, German, Austrian, Jewish, but he moved to England, when all that stuff started going down. Okay, so I read the first parts of There Will Be Rainbows, a biography of Rufus Wainwright by Kirk Lake. And let me just tell you, a way to start a biography shouldn't be by, dissing the subject that you're talking about. And then, the whole first part of the book is about Rufus's parents. So I'm like, it's supposed to be a biography of Rufus Wainwright, not his parents. And then I read the first prologue and chapter of The Better Sister, and, we had this character, Chloe, and she's perfect in every way, and has all the opportunities, and is such a good person, and so I just thought I'd show you what I've been working on for the past few days. And that's this. It's a notebook that I picked up a long time ago. I have all these pages, but I decided to do a reading journal in here. So I have my 2020, my goals for 2020, and some kind of bad Art Deco stuff. And then I did the shelf where you write in the name of the book, and I'm going to color them in too as I go along. Read more books. So yeah, I think I have 101 spots to fill in there. And then I decided to do something similar for comics. This won't be enough, so these are just going to be the comics that definitely stand out. So in each little comic square, I'm going to add the name of the comic. Yeah, that took a lot of work, all those lines. And then I have a page for DNS, and I had these Oscar the Grouch stickers, and so I was like, this book is garbage. So I did a garbage can. And then I'm reading two series, The Wheel of Time and Malazan, Book of the Fallen, so I decided to track them here. You'll notice the first one of each one is missing, because I've already read them. I mean, I've already read all of Wheel of Time, but, I'm rereading it. And then we have January, which I just put some stickers on. But I wanted to keep track of what genres I'm reading. So this is just gonna be a tally, the format that I read in, any DNS, the ratings I give, and the audience. And then I have a place for best books and worst books. And then for February I'll do the same. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. So it's Saturday, which means it's the last day of this vlog, but I still have more to wrap up. So this is just a book haul. Apparently, one of my New Year's resolutions was to go to the thrift store and buy a bunch of books more often. Yeah. So, first off, I got this children's book, No Lie, I Acted Like a Beast, which is the story of Beauty and the Beast as told by the Beast, by Nancy Lowen, illustrated by Christian Bernardini. Then I picked up this one, Fantasia, an Algerian cavalcade by Assia Jabbar. It interweaves three narratives, written accounts of the Algerian defeat of 1830 recorded by French soldiers and journalists, oral accounts of rural Algerian women who recall their participation in the independence struggle of 1954 to 1962, and autobiographical fragments of the author's own experience growing up in colonial Algeria. Then I picked up this Redemption by Julie Chabarro. This phrase on the back is why I decided to get it. It says, I climb a tree to its tip where the branches are thin, and I see the dead bird there. Only its mouth is open, and it is singing the voice of my father. And I was like, that sounds weird. I have to get it. And then I got Tom Harper's For Christ's Sake, which is a nonfiction book about
who Jesus actually was. It's a classic study of what the Bible actually tells us about Jesus, controversial and radical, and that it goes to the root of what is known. Harper's book strips away the mythology about Jesus to reveal a man whose message is still fresh and relevant to today. So kind of, it says at the beginning, like, don't read this book if you are very comfortable with the way Christianity is. Read this book if you want to be challenged intellectually. And I'm like, sounds good to me. And then I have this Jamrock's Menagerie by Carol Birch. I just realized that it's embossed there. That's kind of cool. And this is about a man who encounters a circus animal, is then saved by Mr. Jamrock, and is recruited by him to go to the Dutch East Indies, because this takes place in 1857. And then I got this one, Missing Earth by C.H. Bayard. And this sounds really cool. So it's about this guy named Galen, who lives in Roman-occupied Greece, when he's visited by three strangers. They're Druid heroes, Aramaean, Turnin, and their Jewish friend, Yeshua, Jesus. And then years later, he's now working for the Roman general as a physician on a military campaign to drive the Britons and Druids out of Britannia, and he's visited by Matthew, who wrote the Gospels, and he's asking to help him finish the Gospel. And lastly, I picked up this book, Maybe by Brent Bunton, mostly a cover by, and in the back, the one sentence that made me pick it up was, maybe I shouldn't pretend to be deaf, which sounded quite interesting. Sorry if you hear the cats in the background, they're playing. Yeah, and it's supposedly a YA, but it sounds interesting anyways. And I just thought I'd wrap up the week. I only really read one book. I started a bunch of other ones, but I finished this one, The Better Sister by Alistair Burke. Had a complicated relationship with this. I initially really hated it, and then eventually some of my issues started getting worked out, but not necessarily in a way that I think is good, but in a way that made me not hate it as much as I initially did. It was so idealized. That was my main issue with it by the end, but the plot was interesting enough, and I read it really fast. And that's interesting. Like, this is like a 300 plus page book, which normally would take me like a week or two to read, but I read this in 2 days, and I read it really like fast. Like, it wasn't like a constant 2 days. Like, I read like probably like 3 hours it probably took me to read this. So it's interesting that, like, you know, say I'm just gonna pull a random book that I have read. So here we have like The King of Wise, which, like, okay, so there's 2 volumes in here, so half of this would be equivalent to one of these, and this would take me a lot longer to read because of the writing style and the content and everything going on is much more complicated, I guess, complex than it is in this, which has simpler writing, you know, very kind of straightforward plot, and stereotypes, so you're not really thinking a lot too much while you're reading it. So that was interesting. So that was my reading week. I read the first chapter in a bunch of other books, which I talked about earlier, and then I finished this, The Better Sister. So that's it. I'll see you next week in another vlog.